The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
All right, happy week 3 to PA High School football fans. This is PA High School Football Report Podcast, fueled by PennLive and the good folks at UPMC. Lots to dissect from, let's call it a raucous week of action. Senior football writer Eric Epler. I feel compelled to say senior nowadays, Daniel.
Yeah.
And I think Daniel gives you a certain amount of prestige, too. Do you prefer that? Is that okay?
That's what my mom says when she's angry at me. So
good, Daniel. It is.
Yeah.
All right. Let's first celebrate Dan's upcoming trek to see the boss.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. First and foremost, the one and only Bruce Springsteen. Dan, I know we talked about this the other day. It's not quite going to Asbury Park.
No,
but Nationals Park will do. Are you pumped?
I'm pretty excited. I mean, it's a bit trite, right, to be a sports journalist and be going to see Bruce, but
yes,
I've never seen him. I actually growing up, I wasn't a big Bruce fan. It wasn't until really I got to college and started going through his old discographies and stuff like that. Started watching some of the live video stuff. I got really into him kind of post college. So I'm excited to see him. He's still playing 3.5-hour shows at age 70 after having all these ulcers and everything. I don't know what kind of drugs they pump him full of to get through these things, but
I don't know. So we were talking the other day about being tired at the end of a work week, and he's 70 and pumping out 3-4 hour shows.
Yeah,
just ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's got some sort of magic dust or something.
Yeah.
We'll speculate on what it is, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, you'll have a fantastic time down in DC.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So, All right, let's get after it, Dan. Week 2 in the books. We talked a lot about the action yesterday during our series of meetings, and and there were some surprises, obviously, but we're not going to really focus on teams. We're going to focus on players today, players who have sort of surprised us. And again, it doesn't have to be newcomers. It doesn't have to be some veterans who maybe have been around for a while, didn't play last year for whatever reason. We really have carte blanche. We really can sort of stretch this any way we want to. So we're looking at surprise football players after the first 96 minutes of live football in this season. So I think it's probably best to kind of run back and forth on these.
Yeah,
Daniel, I love saying that. So we can discuss each pick, and I kind of marked down about 5 or 6 players who have really caught my attention over the first couple of weeks. I think I've seen 5 football games because we've had a couple of Thursday night specials already. It's been a long couple of weeks to start. So why don't we start with you? Mm-hmm. And these are guys that just have sort of caught our attention for whatever reason. We'll discuss it. So, Daniel, you're up.
All right. I'm going to start at, in the city, down at Landstein's program at CD East. And I'm going to go with Dimaj Jallo, just because they've had a great start to this year. Really great. I don't think we've talked a ton about them. This year, I feel like our general stance on them has been, we'll wait and see what happens, right?
Right.
They have a lot of potential, but you kind of want to see how the pieces fit. And then first drive of the first game for the Panthers, their best player, Jared Porter, goes down with an ankle injury.
Yep.
And Dimaj Jallo has been awesome. He's been awesome, kind of carrying the load with Porter out. Two blowout wins against York High, Chambersburg. He's really developed a really good chemistry already with Trinity transfer Santana Young, doing stuff mobile as a mobile quarterback as well. I was really impressed with him in the York win. Looked like he had just as good of a game. He shook off an early interception against Chambersburg to put up 50 points. Just a kid that we were kind of waiting to see what he would look like, because he got his first real extended experience at quarterback last year. And I think he's taken the reins, and I think CD's just looking like kind of an underrated player in that Mid-Penn Commonwealth, especially when they get Porter back. Because that defense has looked awesome. Obviously, it's lighter schedule going against Chambersburg and York High, but I think they held Chambersburg to 17 total yards. I don't care who you're playing. You hold a team to 17 yards. That's elite defense.
Right.
You're still going against a 6A school with, Chambersburg's an elite track and field school, so you know they're going to have athletes. Told them to 17 yards, but I've just been really impressed with Jala so far this year.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. Jala was one guy that I kind of marked and then went a different direction because, obviously he's been around. But you're right about the schedule. Obviously, it's going to get a lot tougher for CDs. But when you talk about a rebuilding York High team, you talk about a rebuilding Chambersburg team, they still throttled both of them. They did what they should do, what good teams do, lay the wood down and get a big W. And Landstein's crew has done that in the first 2 weeks. Giles is a guy that's been around. I sort of put Damage in that same role like Torrin Evans of Susquehanna Township. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very good quarterback. Very heady. Seems like he learned something new about the position every week he plays, which is a great thing. And probably underappreciated. I would call. I think that's a good word for Jala. And I honestly, I like the way he goes about his business. Put it to you that way. He's not flashy. Obviously, he can tuck and run if plays bust up. And just a good football player. And I think he's a really big asset for that team, particularly with Porter being hobbled right now. So, hopefully that team is full strength when they get into the really big meat of the schedule. It comes very fast in the Mid-Penn Commonwealth. So that's on the horizon. But I agree. I think that's a really good pick to open up these surprises, if you will. So my first guy is on the defensive side. I'm going with Chris Thompson.
Nice.
Who's defensive tackle now at Bishop McDevitt. And for a handful of reasons, really. McDevitt has enjoyed a big active presence on the defensive front. You talked about Raleigh Rebel in the championship season 2 years ago. Owen Rebel has been there last year, and Thompson was sort of the guy that was going to take over. And obviously he came in with credentials from Trinity, but he was only a sophomore, so he was still sort of developing. So he comes over from Trinity. He's been a really good pickup so far for Bishop McDevitt. Thompson had around 40 stops last year. Well, he's already equaled his TFLs and his sack totals from entire season last year. Win 2 games against the Crusaders, and that's against 2 really good opponents in Mount St. Joseph and, of course, Harrisburg on Saturday at the Rock. So Chris Thompson's a kid I think that is rising up the ladder really, really quickly. And again, there's a lot of big names on both sides of the football for McDevitt, and Thompson maybe in a position to kind of get overshadowed a little bit, but he's made it impossible to do that with his work so far in the first 2 weeks of the season. So I think he is really on a really good pace and a really important piece to that McDevitt defense. I think anybody on that staff will tell you the same thing. So I picked Chris Thompson at McDevitt.
Yeah, awesome pick. Like, he's a guy that, you kind of mentioned his name a lot at Trinity, right? Because he was a key part of that defense, but there were kind of other bigger names on that defense. And then again, he's on another big name defense with big, stars and everything. But you could argue he's been the most impactful player through 2 weeks for that unit. And just obviously, clearly, just when you see it kind of translate on multiple stops, and you're not that like superstar player, right? And you kind of see it translate. That kind of says a lot about the type of player you are. So it's a really good pick. My second pick, I shouldn't even call this a surprise because this program always finds a way to find guys like this. But I was at this game on Friday, Cedar Cliff Central Dauphin. And I'll tell you what, this PJ, I think Princeton Den, I think he goes by PJ. The Colin Gillens found another electric running back for the Colts. He had 100 yards against Central Dauphin. I think he had just as many in the week 1 win over Redland. He's just a really fun player, really kind of quick, explosive, decisive runner. Cedar Cliff's always looking for guys like that, right? We remember Jonte Morris years ago when I think I forget it. I was at the game when I believe Jonte Morris had 50 carries in a win against Shippensburg, one of the most game plan disciplined games I've ever seen, where they just kept turning around, handing the ball, shortening the game. I don't think PJ Dent's the same type of running back as Jonte Morris. I think he's much more of a, cut like a one cut, hit the hole type of guy. But I believe he's a sophomore.
He's a sophomore. Yep.
Yep. And he's looked really, really good so far. So not exactly a surprise, but more of just like a breakout. This guy's going to be putting up a lot of yards the next few years, even in a really tough Commonwealth Division pick.
Well, I'll call him a surprise because he's on my list. I mean, that was the biggest question mark. You're right. Coming in the season is how are you going to replace the 1,300 yards from Eric Shriver? And Shriver also he had, 18, 20 scores last year. I mean, that's a big gap.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden now the sophomore steps right into, and again, you play a fierce rival in Redland, and then you go and play, a back and forth game with Central Dauphin, one of the 6A benchmark programs that we have. And yes, they're down, but you're talking almost 300 rushing yards in the first 2 weeks. He's already got 3 touchdowns. 7.1 yards per carry is what stands out to me. I mean, that's a really impressive number. And again, okay, your tougher defenses are coming, but to get that kind of start from a sophomore, and you're really leaning on him, and you've got those other parts. There's a lot of good parts to that offense. Obviously, Bennett Seacrest under center. You've got some help at wideout. Having a guy like this to kind of step into that role and really look in the first 2 weeks, that's a big surprise for me. I don't know of any of us that saw PJ Dent coming. So for him to emerge in the first 2 weeks has been pretty impressive in my book. So, all right, my second guy that I listed here was Juniata quarterback Wyatt Ehrenzeller. And I marked Ehrenzeller because I think he represents perfectly the kind of player that Kirk Kondo sort of cultivates up there. He's smart, kind of a hard-nosed kid who simply wants to win. Ehrenzeller obviously is not flashy. He doesn't have the best arm in the league. He doesn't care, though, about stacking up numbers. You could really say that for all the Indians, really. I mean, they just want to win football games. But he had to bounce back from just a horrendous first half against Steel High. He had 2 picks. I think he was 2 for 5 with 2 picks in the first half in that win against Steel High. That's a sad half for a quarterback, and it didn't faze him one bit. Obviously, he showed a lot of character, coming back, couple of rushing touchdowns, but the leadership that kid brings to that program goes just so far beyond any numbers that he puts up. Obviously, he came back in the second half and did tremendous. They got a 29-14 win against Steel High. This team was down 14-0. And he told me after the game, point blank, I did not play well in the first half. Like that was his response. I played pretty terrible in the first half. So you see a kid like that who understands what the position means to the team and what his attitude means to the team. And you could see that in the second half. And some of the other, catalysts on that team, like Jasper Sheps, Lane Piper, they both said the same thing. I mean, this is our guy. This is our leader. So whatever that guy does, whatever Wyatt does, really just resonates through the whole offense and even through the whole team. So that's big to me. I mean, again, if he threw for 12 yards in a game and 3 picks and they won, he wouldn't care one bit. The victory is all that matters. So that's impressive to me. So he's my second guy.
Awesome. Yeah, that total, just a really like reliable player the last few years. But it sounds like the first couple weeks, he's really kind of taken the reins a little bit. So that's a good pick. I'm kind of going to a similar boat here for another player that I think all of us knew is a really, really, really good player. Like we all knew it last year and we knew it this year, but I don't think we knew what it would look like this year. And I'm going with Christian Joy, running back Trinity. We were kind of, with all the transfers that left that program, Christian Joy very much could have also left that program if you wanted to. The transfer stuff's weird. You don't like it. We kind of sometimes talk about it like it's college and it's not supposed to be, but we kind of know what, how this stuff works. We're not to shield our eyes, but Christian Joy stayed there. They lost a lot of talent. He's been awesome. He's looked like, you could argue, the best running back in the Mid-Penn through 2 weeks.
Yep.
And just he's not the biggest kid, not the fastest kid, but he makes guys miss. He runs hard, and he had over 200 yards against a good East Pennsboro defense. Just a joy to watch play football, and he looks like he's on his way to another all-star season for the Rocks.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.
Yeah, years ago there was a kid named, and most will remember the name Adam Geiger.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Geiger was a running back for Trinity and linebacker, and he was so defiant. He was not big, but obviously tough as nails, and he actually would get. It would seem to me like when he got contact, he would tick him off. Like how dare you? I'm not getting stopped 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. You're gonna have to fight and claw me, and I'm gonna still get a positive gain. And Geiger was a tremendous. I actually think the one season he was either at or just above 2,000 rushing yards, but he was just an unbelievable two-way player. He was probably 5'9", maybe 175 pounds. But like I said, he bowled over people. It was just pure will. Christian Joy reminds me of Geiger in that way, in the fact that he's going to beat you on that play, no matter what. And, those are guys you build programs around, at the next level. So, I appreciate really the way he plays the game. And you're right. He could have very easily not been playing at Trinity right now. I mean, obviously he started his career at Bishop McDevitt and moved over to Trinity as a sophomore. But he stayed, and he gives those guys a chance. And I like his running style too. Like I said, he's probably not a 4.4 guy, but he can run, and he's smart about how he hits the hole, where he hits the hole. His body position is really good through the hole. So I appreciate what that kid can do for sure. So all right, let's move on. My next guy is another quarterback. We talked about a couple quarterbacks already. And Jala and Aaron Zeller. And I'm going to go with Eddie Corkery, the quarterback for State College. And listen, Corkery makes the list because I still believe, Dan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I still believe only a small percentage of Central PA fans know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Corkery was among the top returning quarterbacks in terms of production. Coming into this season, he threw for like 2,100 yards last year at 20 scores. During a 7-4 campaign, but because the Little Lions, again, they're in a little bit different situation. They didn't exactly challenge for the Commonwealth. They lost last year, I think, back to back to Harrisburg and Cumberland Valley, so they really weren't in the equation for the Commonwealth title. And then, of course, they whisk off. They break away to District 6 postseason, and then the subdivision game, and then all of a sudden they sort of show up in the state quarterfinals. Typically that didn't happen last year. They got bounced by McDowell in the subdivision game, but he's not a household name around these parts, and he really should be. I mean, he's already like nearing 500 passing yards in 2 weeks. He just threw 6 TDs last week. He's got 8 scores already and 2 victories to open the season. If you don't know the name Eddie Corkery by now, you really should read up on this State College team because, they lost Deontay Sheffy, obviously transferred to Harrisburg. And Sheffy was for a long time was their identity, for a year or two. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed with Eddie Corkery. State College is solid 2-0 right now. Good wins against Gateway and obviously last week. So he's a guy that you should really get behind because, with a couple good guys outside, Ty Salazar to be, one of them, of course.
Level wide receiver.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's really impressive. Like I said, he catches everything. If it's within 20 yards of him, Ty's going to catch it. So that's an impressive combination. But they got a little something cooking at State College, and I'm not sure with the loss of Sheffy, most believe that they were just going to continue to be a force in the Commonwealth. But they're right there all of a sudden. So again, there's some tough matchups coming up for them. Obviously, this Saturday is one of them when they visit Severance Field at 1:00 on Saturday against the Cougars. So that'll be the biggest test for him so far. But Corkery's a playmaker, and he can do a lot. So check him out.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, you just kind of I think what did he have, like 5 touchdown passes on 10 attempts? Last week it was just him and Salazar. You look for those pairings, right? The quarterback wide receiver pairings that just seem to be on the same page, and they're definitely one of them. I'm going kind of off the board a little bit. I'm going to an 0-2 team, but I'm going to a kid that's been super productive for an 0-2 team. He had a pretty good year last year. Last name's a little familiar. I think he plays every sport. A lot of these kids at these Franklin County schools do. But I'm going with Carter McCauley, wide receiver for Greencastle Antrim. To start the year, Carter's at 20 catches for 290 yards and 3 touchdowns through. On a team that throughout the years, I don't think Greencastle has traditionally been a team that you look for receiving stats, right? They've been when they had Chuck Teninis said, coach, they were run heavy. They've been kind of trained. They've been a little more pass heavy under Devin McCauley, but it's still, they've had guys like David Niebauer and Tavon Cooper. And they've had a couple close losses to start the year, but Carter McCauley, hard not to be impressed with his start to the year. Last year had 588 receiving yards, so he's already on pace to pass that by week 5. And I know he does. I know he's a baseball player for that program. He's a basketball player for the program. Just one of those kids that does everything, and pretty. I know, obviously, he comes from a family where I think they're probably more focused on the wins and losses, but. Good and really great individual start for a program that kind of can fall behind the wayside a little bit. And so I'm going with Carter McCauley as a nice wide receiver surprise to start the year.
Yeah, McCauley's a really good baseball player and a really good athlete, and that's a good pick because, like I said, he is a versatile one of the better versatile guys in Franklin County for sure. And you're right. It's not Chuck Teninis offense anymore. That 3 yards of the cloud of dust. Which was always fun to watch. But now they have turf, so it says it's not quite the same. But we used to have these conversations with Chuck a lot. And then it was always a great time.
Yeah.
But that's a good pick. I like Carter McCauley, and he's been doing really good stuff so far. Even though the wins haven't racked up yet, but they're coming.
Yeah.
I'm going to. Speaking of Franklin County, I'm going to stay there, and I'm going to mention a running back at Shippensburg, Janae Statham. Now, I don't think many believed actually the Greyhounds would be 2-0 right now for multiple reasons. I mean, we've talked a lot about the tragedy surrounding the Coach Mack at Ship U. And there was a certain amount of talent that had graduated. And, I don't think I don't know. I didn't envision them being 2-0. I thought 1-1 would be their best situation right now, but they are 2-0. And Stadium certainly came into the season with, plenty of street cred. I mean, but he's averaging more than a yard more than he did in 2023. And he's already halfway to his 2023 rushing to TD total, which was 6. He's got 3 already. And I mentioned they graduated some key assets up front, but Stadium has done a really good job of moving the chain so far. And I think he's a guy, like when we talked a little bit earlier about PJ Dent, I think Stadium is a guy now has proved that you can lean on him. This offense can lean on him. I mean, listen, Eric Faust would like nothing more. Again, they're certainly not a hemmed in offense, anymore, especially with Brady under center. But we know Eric Faust would love to run the ball up the gut, right around right around tackles, and sort of make hay that way. And Stadium gives him that option that you could sort of trust. And I'm not sure that by this point, most would say that, coming into the season. So even though Stadium had, X number of yards last year. So I think Stadium's a guy to keep an eye on. I think this division is one that's open, and I think they're going to be able to continue riding their running back, for a lot more victories in the regular season. So Shippensburg has sort of announced their presence, I think, so far. And I'm impressed. I'm impressed with their running core, really, and Stadium's at the head of that. So
awesome. Yeah. I think a lot of people probably recognize that last name. Really good basketball player, Jaden Stadium, for I think 4 years, pretty much. His brother Don. I assume it's his brother. I'm guessing, but yeah, just obviously we know the type of program. Shippensburg is one of those old fashioned programs, right? Where I think the last few years they went a little because they had such a good wide receiver weapon in Irby Weller. They kind of shifted a little more to a more pass happy approach, especially with Chamberlain, a quarterback. But I think we're getting back to kind of the Shippensburg DNA under Eric Faust, which is run the ball and have those linebackers flying at you on defense. So yeah, good shout there. I'm going to go with some low hanging fruit. Just the easy one from Saturday. We haven't mentioned it all. Jayon Lewis, like Harrisburg's, I guess, can we say starting quarterback? I would be pretty, I would be pretty surprised if they decide, hey, thanks for the win, Jayon. We're sending you back to the bench for week 3. What a performance by that kid. Just onions in that guy, as Bill Curry would say, just filling in, pretty much, I guess you could basically say, right, third string quarterback.
I mean, that's essentially what it is.
Sean Lee was going to play. Sean Lee ineligible. Shank takes the first reps, gets hurt. And Shank was still obviously, I think, is poised to have a great career. He's just a sophomore. He was kind of thrust into a really difficult situation at a new school, new offense. But Jayon Lewis has been in the program. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe he might be Zakai Lewis's younger brother, former Harrisburg standout as well. And man, what a game, in the biggest game. I think it's fair to say the biggest game he's played in his life, right? That game against McDevitt. After kind of, a slowish start, he started finding Elias Koch in the open field. And then I think seeing what Elias can do in the open field kind of settled him down, both as a passer and as a runner. Because I think he's like, hey, this isn't so bad. I get just find the open man, find the open spots. They had the 80-yard touchdown run, and then made big play after big play, converted the 2-point conversion when they needed it. Made some big throws. I think it was Mekhi Jackson who had the 2-point conversion in OT. Just for that kid to come in there and be as poised as he was late in the game in that type of environment says a lot about him. And we've said it before, if Harrisburg can figure out this quarterback situation, even with this Kevin Brown question mark with his injury, there's going to be a player in a 6A classification that I think I imagine in the District 3 rankings, we're going to have Manheim Township at number 1 right now, but I don't think I think Manheim probably is like at least looking at the Harrisburg team a little nervous seeing how well Jayon played against McDevitt, because I don't think anyone expected them to get that type of production out of the quarterback spot this year when Sean Lee went down.
I didn't expect Lewis to throw that type of production for sure, but you know what he proved too, and it was you mentioned about the 80-yard slant to Elias Koch. You know, it was just, I mean, it was such a well-timed pass, and again, Koch's the kind of guy who can get separation quickly. So that 12-yard or whatever it was, 12-yard slant, you know, that he turned into an 80-yard touchdown. Obviously, the bulk of the credit goes to Koch. But he, Lewis threw some really good passes in that game. And I think it would be unfair to sort of say, well, he's sort of just a running quarterback because he showed so well in that part of the game.
We've been saying for weeks, right? Just get the ball to Koch in space and see what happens. And
yeah. And Koch, and Koch too, to his credit as well. He drew that pass interference call there. The important one, like the one that they were driving down to kind of take a little bit, take charge, or take the lead. And, obviously defensively, he's a big presence at safety. And, so he had a tremendous game. But, you're right. Just the poise that Lewis showed, and I mean, you're walking into a pressure cooker is unimaginable, really. And to make your first start in that situation,
especially coming off the loss where, Harrisburg going into a situation where they'd be 0-2 to start the year, there's just a ton of pressure on that kid and in his first career start.
Yeah, and knowing a guy like Kevin Brown's not on the field.
Yeah.
Also, he's one of the guys that's going to protect your tail.
Yeah.
So it just was one of those situations where the kid just elevated himself and elevated his game. And you're right. I what do you do now? I mean, I would put number 5 or number, Lewis under center and maybe you bring in Michael Shank, when he's fully healthy and, to run a few sets and a certain package, whatever. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, Calvin Everett and his staff did a lot of really smart, timely things in that game against Bishop McDevitt. And it was impressive. And Lewis was so impressive to me. I mean, he really was. And he made play after play. I mean, even some of the passes, we were on the sideline. Even some of the passes he missed on, were good throws. Were good throws, and maybe they were a shade late or a shade high.
Any that you get typically from those guys making their first start, right, where you hear the crowd go ooh because it's almost picked off. Or there wasn't really much like.
No,
he didn't give McDevitt a chance to flip field position with a bad throw, or he didn't hold on to the ball too long. It was just it was a really poised performance from a guy that none of us. Let's face it, he wasn't on any of our radar as a quarterback. And
right.
Like someone said, he looked like Sean Lee sort of.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what it looked like. It looked like a Sean Lee performance.
Yeah, exactly.
He ran what he needed to run. They ran set plays for him. They ran set QB draws for him. And then he looked really good throwing the football.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fault him for anything that he did.
Yeah.
I don't think he did anything wrong in that game, and obviously the result was the result.
Yep.
So good for him. I agree completely. I think that was the most impressive performance of me in week 2, by far. So you got anybody left?
I think that was my 5.
All right. We doubled up on dead. So yeah, those are my 5 guys too. All right. So that'll do it for this edition of the PA High School Football Report. Remember to check out all of PennLive's picks, features, standings, game coverage, much, much more. If you can, get out there and support area football, soccer, tennis, golf. What else is going on? Cross-country teams. Get out there. It matters to these kids to see out there cheering. Anybody in uniform, players, band members, cheerleaders, you name it. Thanks to my man Daniel and our producer, Megan. And of course, come back next week. We'll do it again. Thanks for listening.
The UPMC sports medicine experts in Central PA are here to help keep you in the game and improve your quality of life, no matter your age or activity level. Visit upmc.com/Central PA SportsMed to learn more.